We have discussed many things in the past which are false excitement, things which will take you away from yourself. Any thought that takes you away from yourself when you should be with yourself, watching yourself, being one with yourself, is a false excitement of one kind or another. We have discussed many of these. Getting angry about anything at all, getting impatient, feeling that you've been cheated out of something, thinking that you've gone too far to find yourself, anything whatsoever is a false excitement. And a false excitement becomes very valuable if you don't want to wake up, if you don't want to see yourself, if you don't want to be one with yourself. Because if we have a value of having a separate ego, we will resist everything that tries to wake us up. And we're going to get into that in just a second. So be wide awake to everything that is said. Now, there is an entirely different kind of excitement that has a tremendous value to you, to me. And when you see this, every second in your life will be different. And here's what it is in its simplest form. And then you have to see it for yourself out there. This is a genuine, authentic excitement. Whenever anything goes wrong in your life, whenever the pressure mounts up, whenever in one morning 5 different things go wrong with you and with your life, and your usual routine is interrupted, you get real excited about it. Do you see anything at all as yet? The greater pressures you have, the more distraught you are, the more distressed, the happier you should be. Now don't run ahead. Because, you know what you've done? You have come face to face. I have to use the word. I don't have to, but I'm going to. You have come face to face with the enemy, with the opposition, with something that has kept you unhappy, in tension, imprisoned. But you have never seen it because you have not stepped outside of yourself to look back at it and say, ha, I have for the first time isolated the problem, which of course is not out there. You get real excited the next time someone betrays you. They don't betray you. You understand that? It exists as a response in the mind. But this is what we say, I was betrayed. Or you lose something. You get real excited because now you have an opportunity that you didn't have before of finding out why all your life you have had this exterior excitement, and way back in your mind there was something nagging at you. Have you ever been to an exciting place? What? A party, a political meeting, gathered with friends around dinner, and you actively engaged in the conversation. You told jokes too, and you laughed too. And have you ever actually done this, of stepped aside from yourself and looked back and see something way back here that was haunting you? Have you ever done, answer me, have you ever done that? If you have, then get real excited because for the first time you've seen the source of the problem, instead of really thinking that you were happy at that party, because you were not, or I was not. Because we go home lonely, don't we, afterward? So just briefly in this, the next time you have a problem, you think it's going to be easy, it's going to be very difficult, but you start doing it. Instead of feeling sorry for yourself that you were left with that stack of dishes out there, that you were passed by for the promotion, or that you don't have that nice-looking man in your life or nice-looking woman as your neighbor does, and your attention is back on how bad you feel, start to be real happy. I'm very serious. Do you understand? Because now you can start to reverse the whole trend of your life. Instead of identifying with your own sorrow, with your own pain, you can start to work on yourself in the right way. And we've discussed these right ways many times. Maybe you'd like to ask questions about it or make comments. All right, we'll open it up from now on.
Very tired.
Very tired.
Yeah.
False excitement.
Yeah.
Yes, do you know why? Because you see the futility behind it. You know that after the ball is over, you're going home. Whether you go home with your wife or with your husband or go home alone, you know that as soon as the excitement of that party is over, you're face to face with yourself. The minute you get out to that car, you sense it way back in here, and it's a terrible thing. Don't live like this anymore. Something will crack after a while. When the trouble piles on you left and right, and you think you're going to go mad, or you want to take a drink or whatever you happen to do for escapes, and you use this new technique, to put it that way, of saying simply, I'm going to learn from this instead of go down underneath it. And you will be, we had the illustration last time of trying to stop a runaway truck with a toothpick. Your first attempt will be a toothpick. The next time it'll be a little bit larger. Next time a little bit more. May I ask first of all, did any of you actually do one of the projects that was given last time, namely the one about watching your thoughts as you were in bed? Did any of you do it at all? Would any of you like to comment on it? For those of you, a couple of you who might be new, the idea was this: if at night, when you're a little bit drowsy and you're not talking to your wife or husband anymore, and you're drifting off to sleep, you'll find that your mind will be taken over very often by negative thoughts. And if you just lie there and let yourself be taken over, then this is what you become. You actually become a mental jungle. This is what you are at that moment. And a lot of people do prefer a mental jungle because it is an excitement, another false excitement. But when you're lying there and you're sufficiently tired of suffering, you're sufficiently tired of paying the price, and you're afraid of many, many things, right? Afraid of many things. And you want to start going in the other direction, then you must make a new kind of effort, which has nothing to do with anything outside of you, but simply working with your own mind. And the first thing you have to do is become quite conscious that you are laying in that bed, letting these thoughts take you over. Even, and especially so, what you call pleasurable thoughts. You made this big business triumph during the day. You made a big commission on the sale. Or you were complimented by somebody, and you run this over and over in your mind. When you're doing this, you are divided from yourself. You're not a whole person. Your mind is operating incorrectly. And so some people can't even sleep at night because all these thoughts keep them awake, right? Snap the hypnotic spell, which indeed is what it is, and say, instead of sitting here being a slave to this freight car of painful, unhappy, or even exciting thoughts, I'm going to shake my head move my physical position, do anything to say I'm not going to continue with this. This is the way the world lives, both at night and during the day. You say, I don't want to be mad anymore. I don't want to be part of the insanity anymore. I've been this way all my life. I admit it. I know it. Because I know the terrible thoughts of hatred and revenge I have. I don't tell you about it because I have images, public images that I don't want people to see. But I know about it. So I'm going to start snapping it as best I can. You won't succeed the first time or the 10th time or the 50th time. Don't be discouraged. This is all very encouraging. Nothing but this is encouraging, because nothing but this is true. This is the only way out. There's no other way out, and either you want it or you don't. Either I want it or I don't. All right. I suggest you do try it, though. Try to interrupt the chain of thought. If you don't do it at night, why don't you try doing it during the day?
That's what I was going to suggest. If you're always in turmoil all day long, how can you just snap out of it at night? You have to start snapping out of it before that.
Well, then the next day comes, so there's no start or finish. It's all one and then the other. I simply selected night because you're all alone with yourself and most of your distractions are gone. Eventually, you'll be able to not be taken over right in the middle of that madhouse office you work in. You'll be able to be a free human being right in the middle of all these shouting, screaming people. And you won't be part of it. And therefore you won't be contributing to the madness. But don't expect them to know it, because they're not going to know it. They don't want it. You have to want it for yourself. Then if anyone else wants it, they will ask you, which is not too likely.
If we do this at night, will we eventually get up in a better state the next morning?
Sure, because you've weakened
you
it.
have a good start to the day before you do get caught
No, you've
in all
weakened
the
it.
identifications.
If you go to sleep, if you're lying down half asleep, and all these burdensome thoughts that have been going through your mind all day long, everything, you stop and think for a minute what happened to you from the moment you got up this morning. The screaming traffic, the impatience of someone in the home, whatever it may be. All these, if you were asleep, took you over and made you negative without you even knowing it. All right. So the speed of the freight train picked up. And it's very powerful. A freight train is a powerful thing. You don't stop it just like that. And so it does carry over into the night. So if you do start in the night, obviously, you can start your day much better because you have at least slowed it down. I told you before, one of the most fascinating things you'll see as you go into this is see your thoughts slow down. Instead of, we had this as a work project too. Someone asks you a question, instead of sputtering, yes, that's right. Because you've worked on yourself to stop mechanical talk, mechanical answering, you will see yourself go 1/10 slower. Oh, that's right. You'll still interrupt me, but it'd be just a little bit slower. Just because your thought is working slower. Pretty soon, you'll find yourself, among other things, having no interest at all in answering, and perhaps answering in the way you used to. Because, among other things, when thought slows down, you see your actual motives for talking the way you do. You'll be amazed beyond belief what you see. For example, self-defending answers or self-righteous answers. Someone says to you something about a political situation or something, or they condemn some group, and you say, that's right, that's right. Why? Because you got a thrill out of it, and also you know your friend wants you to agree with you, and so you mechanically agree with him or her.
Hate yourself after.
Pardon?
And hate yourself after.
Yes, you have a shame
Yeah.
afterward, which
You
again
feel
is a
terrible,
wrong reaction. Among other things, and then I will stop for a minute, don't have any allies at all in the world, anywhere. No allies, you understand? Don't seek out people who think as you think, who agree with even the religious beliefs that you agree with. This is the seeking of comfort, which in turn means the seeking a protection of a false sense of self. So when you have no one to agree with you, when you no longer go down to the madhouse where other people are screaming for their cause or for their rights, if you don't go down there anymore, you have cut off one of the false supports of your I, your false self, which will shake you a little bit because you've been depending on these people, and you've been depending upon them, if you only knew it, to lead you astray, because having led themselves astray, they do the same thing to you. Cut off everybody. Then people who have reached a certain level of truth, you will know them and they will know you. You'll be able to help each other. Give yourself the shock of not having anyone who agrees with you. You should be able to walk into any human situation, including this one, walk into it and walk out of it without thinking about it. You should be able to meet a very attractive person of the opposite sex and walk into his or her life and walk out of it without thinking about it at all, without having any emotional reaction any way at all. If you walk into it without a wrong emotion, you'll be able to walk out of it without a wrong emotion. If you walk into a human situation with desire of any kind, desire for security, desire for someone to tell you how to think, you become his slave, do you not? Then if this person knows that you are his slave, which he will or she will, they will put the pressure on you, and you will sense the pressure. But now you're trapped because you have said, this person is valuable to me. I must have him. A religious leader, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, any other human being. And now the familiar game begins to get played. And now you are afraid. And now you're jealous. And now you're very careful of that person. And you will even protect this person, in quote marks, because your so-called interests are involved with him. But if this other person betrays you too badly and too far in some way, you will suddenly change. The person you idolized will suddenly become a devil in your eyes, because now you have swung to the opposite. Don't idolize anyone. When the idol falls. Yes?
Mr. Howard, recently, I think you've answered my question, but I'm not too sure. A lot of very interesting things have happened to me that I've seen. But I also noticed in the last 2 days that I've been almost longing to share them with somebody.
Go ahead.
But I don't have anybody to share them with.
Excuse me, do you mean talking about these things?
Yes.
May I ask you, why do you need anyone to talk to?
Well, I hadn't thought about it. I just wanted to talk to somebody, and I haven't even gone into that. I didn't know why.
All right. Can you understand this? I'm sure. It is not wrong to talk to people about these things, but you don't need to talk to people about these things, and there's no contradiction there at all. It is not wrong, but you don't need them. If I know everything there is to know about planting tomatoes, and I'm an expert on it, I don't need to talk to anyone else about it in order to grow good tomatoes. But if you also like good tomatoes, then you and I may have a good time talking about them. And especially, maybe we don't know everything, but we're trying to learn something about growing better tomatoes in our backyard. So we talk and exchange ideas. But are we in competition? I should hope not. We simply want to grow good tomatoes for ourselves, for myself. You want to grow yours. But there's no ego competition involved. So talk to people who are really interested in these things. But don't be deceived into thinking that most people are, because they are not. And you will get, if you're not sure yet, if you don't really know, evil people will lead you astray. And I have seen many people who had possibilities of finding the way out get taken down that detour and never come back by evil people that they brought to classes sometimes. And the weaker one was taken over by the, quote, stronger one. And they both fell into the ditch.
Is it like not casting pearls before swine?
Right. Good. Fine.
You learn
Right.
Well, you know, I don't mean anybody's
Well, just the biggest speech.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you'll never go wrong, really, in saying that outside of maybe a handful of people that I have met or ever will meet in life, no one really wants to know these things. Very often, the more religious they are, or the more books they've read on esotericism or mysticism, the less interested they are. Because as long as this person can get an ego gratification out of talking about these things, he's happy. But if you have got to the point where you see nothing else can be done until you do the single most important thing of dying to a false sense of self, if you've seen this, then you will begin to talk about this to this other person. And he will become horrified and very frightened of this idea. And he will go away. He won't like you anymore. Because you're attacking him where he is the most frightened of dying to his illusions about himself. But if you understand this, you'll know that this person has been getting ego gratification out of using all these big metaphysical terms and having read all these books and giving you the authors' names. You'll see he's done everything but the one essential thing of dying to his egotism. But you have seen it, so you stick with it. And you talk to someone else who has also seen it, even in a little way. When you see this, I'll tell you, when you see this, that you must give up a false sense of self, the light will flicker, but it'll never go out for very long. Maybe 2 or 3 seconds. But it'll never go out. You'll never lose it. No one will ever take you away again. Impossible. Because you know from yourself the kingdom of heaven is indeed within.
This also makes people stop using you when you begin to command your own integrity, right?
Stop, pardon?
Stops people from using you.
Yes.
Emotionally, in
Yeah,
other words.
yes,
You maintain your own integrity.
yes.
And they go away.
Why? Because you're not rewarding them anymore.
No. You see it, you begin to see it in little ways. Then you can see it.
In big ways.
Uh-huh.
Right. Dare to no longer give people what they want from you. Dare to. I say dare because sooner or later you're going to lose them, you know. Even if you happen to live in the same home with them, you're going to lose what you call their close friendship or something like that. Because you're no longer giving them the ego gratification that they were getting from you. Which means you have to give up the gratification you were getting from them.
Give up your own needs. But you give up what you thought were your needs, too.
Right, right. This will shake you. You know this.
It does, yeah.
All right, but you understand it will shake you when you start to say, I'm not going to do this anymore, because you've been living with it and feeding off it for 30, 40 years. I'm going to do without it. Do without food for 2 or 3 days, you get a little hungry, don't you? This is a rough illustration. Then, having stuck with this loneliness, stuck with it, not run away from it, not escaped it, the light will dawn. You do it. I'm not going to tell you. I can't anyway. You do it. You stick with it. And you'll wish that you'd done it 10, 20, 30 years ago. Because you will also see what you had been doing to yourself all these years. How you'd been punishing yourself. Then, indeed, you do walk into this human situation, whether it's one person or 10 people, and walk out of it. Then your relationships with your own family will be different. You have a family, do you not? I do. This does not mean that they are interested in these things. But you'll know how to behave perfectly when you're with all these brothers and sisters, and you have made a little progress, and you know they're living in madness, and you know better than to say one word to them about anything. You go to their home for Thanksgiving dinner, and you say, yes, indeed, it's a great turkey, and you thank them for the turkey dinner, and you say, goodbye, see you next Thanksgiving. And that's the end of it.
You get along much better.
Sure you do. Sure you do. You sit around the table, and instead of being just as blabby as they are, talking about foolish things and subtly boasting about their achievements during the last week, you are sitting back observing all this, and you will see yourself of maybe a year or so ago in that person over there. And first you'd be a little bit shocked, but you say, thank heaven, at least I'm awake to that. You can learn a lot just by watching people in a social situation.
That would be your projected image, right?
Pardon?
Projected images there, right?
Oh, yes, yes. If you were doing that yourself before, it would be. Then you see it in them. But you have given up this image a little bit because you've seen the damage of it. You saw that you were a mechanical human being who thought you were a brilliant conversationalist or whatever.
Well, you know that project you talked about time before last, I think it was, of seeing a situation and then just absolutely deliberately making yourself not do a thing about it.
Yeah.
It's really great because you don't even comment. You just on anything that might arise of a negative nature.
You mean to stop a mechanical response?
Right,
Is that what
or
you're saying?
complaints from somebody else on a situation
Yeah.
that, where, you know, where somebody's using you as a sounding board.
Yeah,
You just,
yeah. You sit there and listen.
pretty soon it just disappears.
Your life forevermore becomes that of the silent, relaxed listener. You just sit back.
I'm just
You know they're going to blab for the next hour and a
That's all I
half.
can think about is you're saying, talking about the blab.
And you sit there and, now listen, you don't sit there and mechanically nod while your mind is on something else. You use that. If you nod, all right, to acknowledge that they're talking. You nod, but you be aware that you're nodding. Don't you nod mechanically, because now you're asleep too. Okay? They don't want to hear what you have to say anyway. And you'll come out of that situation a little bit more awake yourself. You've learned something from sleeping people. You've learned how to wake up yourself. You're getting rid of suffering. You're getting rid of anxiety, getting rid of fear. No longer wanting to be afraid. You have just deliberately stayed right in the center of your fear. You lost someone, you lost your income, you lost your reputation or whatever, and you stay right with it and don't lift one finger to replace this loss. The minute you replace a loss, you lost this handsome man. The minute you replace it with another handsome man, you're in just as much trouble as you were before. Stay with the fear of not having a handsome man in your life. Yes.
What happens to this vacuum that you create by staying in a situation?
What happens to it?
Well, nature abhors a vacuum.
Okay. All right. We'll use words to explain it. Where there is an emptiness, where there's no longer mechanicalness, there can only be one other thing, which is consciousness. Just simply, look, don't use the word consciousness if you don't want to. Use the word understanding. But there's no Tom Smith or Mary Jones who understands. Because if there's a Mary Smith or whatever the names were, Tom Jones, then there's a Albert Green out there who is opposed to that understanding, having his own. So there's just understanding without you being in it, which is why awakened people all know the same thing. See? They understand the very same thing. We talked about the interval between thoughts. When your thoughts slow down even more to the point where you can have a silence right in them, then to answer your question, this silence is the alternative to mechanical thought. And what does this silence consist of? We'll see. You find out what it does not consist of. That's all. Just think of what it does not consist of you at all. It is not your understanding or your opinion. There's only one God. You see the connection? There's only one God, one truth, capital O-N-E. See? So there's no this lady and this lady, or this man and this man. There's just one thing, which is understanding. And there's no, you remember our points of last time, there's no time involved. If there's time involved, then there's you involved, because your you is made up of accumulated time of your experiences. What happened to you when you were 18, 25, or 30. So there's no time and there's no you. And there's also no such thing as troubles or anxiety or suffering. How can there be? We also found out that pain exists only on the level of thought, of thinking. Therefore, when thought is operating properly to show you how to drive home or cook your dinner, then that takes care of thought. All else should simply be an understanding. There's no pain in understanding. There's only pain in wrong thought, illusory thought. The thought, for example, that you exist separately. So the silence, think of what the silence is not, rather than what it is. Then you won't have to think about it anymore. It is not this mass of problems. And if that is an encouragement, see?
The ego fights twice as hard, though. I noticed.
Right.
I watched myself actually having a temper fit, or almost crying for recognition. You know, when things got quiet. To be more specific, a week ago, I found I had a thought go through my mind. I had no desire, and I was wondering, well, gee whiz, you know, I don't want this, and I don't have anything. No one wanted, you know. And my ego immediately, I watched it and said, hey, come on, I got to conjure up something. This isn't you see. And I could actually see that, and it was really kind of funny in a way. I smiled, that's all.
Yeah.
And of course, between that week and a few days later, I picked up a few desires. It wasn't a permanent thing. So it must be a constant vigilance that we have to have. I don't know.
Remember, we also said if you'll just sit still and do nothing and shake, sit in the chair and shake instead of running out to where you usually run to. Very difficult. It'd be very painful, but this is great. This is the toothpick you're putting out to stop that runaway truck. It'll smash it. And even if you do go out and make your usual escape, don't you fall into the trap now of saying, uh-oh, I didn't do what I was supposed to do, of staying home and suffering. I went out and relieved it in some way. That is a mistake. There is still a you there, which is trying to do something. And you cannot do a single thing. The New Testament says, can a man add 1 inch to his height by taking thought? When thought comes to an end, there is no you to do anything. A brand new person here would say, what do you mean, we just sit around? Your life goes on normally because the whole life is going on fully and all integrated. And there's no conflict. It makes no difference now. Believe me, listen. It makes no difference what you do, which does not mean you do stupid things. It makes no difference if you're a nobody, for example, as opposed to a famous person. Because what are you trying to do? There's nothing to prove anymore. What a relief. Do you see? What a relief. This is what I've been looking for all my life. I'm tired of trying to make an impression on you. In the first place, I know it's a lie. I'm not as nice as I try to appear to be. And I don't fool you, and even if I do, you may see through me, which keeps me tense. What if I'm not anything, don't exist in the old way? I'm still here, but all my problems are solved. Then, I'm in your life, you're in my life, but now, that's a good word, integrity is there, real integrity. I'm not I don't want a thing from you. I used to do this. Oh, what a life I lived, what a terrible life. Trading with you.
That's
Both.
a sort of a discipline too, isn't it?
Pardon?
When you stay in and make yourself suffer, as you're saying, instead of going out and escaping your discipline.
What you're doing is causing a greater crisis in yourself, which means that you are going to become conscious of this suffering that you have been enduring unconsciously all your life. You're sitting home all alone. Loneliness. You're sitting home all alone. The TV programs are bad tonight. I'll go out and go to a friend's house or meet somebody new, something like that. You're suffering. You are you not? You're in pain. You don't know what to do. So you say, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to stay home, and I'm just going to see what on earth is going on inside of me. This makes you conscious of your pain. And as I say, you may go out, you may say, oh boy, I won a big victory. You may come and tell us, I won a great victory. I stayed home and watched myself. But next week you'll go out, but you won't tell us that. All right. Now look, this is the way it goes at the beginning. You get up and you're all excited and you fall down. You get up and you fall down. This is normal. Don't be afraid of it. It happens all the time. You just get up each time. Pretty soon you'll find you're tripping a little less often and staying up longer. Anyone?
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
When understanding does enter into one's life, and one becomes nothing, and yet something, and one's vision is enlarged, and one's inner conflicts in general are gone, there's still the problem of existence in our dollars and cents world. How does one find one true individuality, assuming that each of us are not alike, that some are mechanical, some have other type of abilities, talents or capacities, whatever word you use? How does one make self-discovery so that he can be working in a field which is harmonious to him, in which he works at his maximum efficiency?
All right. Say I work at a factory. I work at a factory where we make toys, all right, anything. Now listen, I am right in myself. I've studied, I've worked hard. I don't want to pay the price anymore. I go to the factory and I make toys all day long. What's my problem? I don't understand. What's my problem? What's my problem? You tell me. Yes.
I think he's referring to the fact that he doesn't know what to do.
I can simplify, Mr. Howard, by saying that 99% of all the people in the world are working for the almighty dollar. They don't work because they love what they're doing and money comes second. It's money is first. I'm saying, where does the person find his true channel in which he can work because he likes that work?
The true channel is the entire world. Don't you make a choice. Don't you choose. If you do, you are going to run into conflict because making a choice, you have made a demand. Don't you know that you don't control us? Let's see if you can take it. You don't control anything. You don't have to. All right, Sally's bursting. Go ahead.
Isn't it, first of all, to find yourself, and then it doesn't matter really what you do.
We'll go into this more on the second half, because I think our time is up here. We'll carry it on. Should we take a 10-minute break, Rose? 6-7-minute break?
Anybody thirsty?
little bit, please. One of the most difficult truths to understand, but which you must start to understand, and which you are doing as you absorb these things, is the fact, this will come to your question in a minute, that there is just one thing, capital O, one thing. Now, what do you want to call it? If you want to use a label, fine. Do you want to call it God? Do you want to call it united humanity? Do you want to call it cosmic power? Use any term you want. Now, there is only one thing. There are obviously expressions of this one thing, and there's a room full of expressions of this one thing. However, this room full of expressions of the capital W-H-O-L-E does not have a separate mind, does not have a separate ego, does not have a separate self. What is the cause of all troubles on earth? The belief that I have a separate ego as opposed to yours. And if we can put a label on it by you being a German and I being a Frenchman, you being this religion, I being that religion, that seems to confirm our separatedness, which does not exist. However, if I believe that I have a separate ego, a separate self, not only will I suffer endlessly from it, but I will have ideas, false ideas, about power, about what I can accomplish in the outer world, in the daily working world. Now, if I'm living under the illusion that I am Mr. Smith, 30 years old, just out of college or school or whatever, and I have an education, and I have a little money, I'm going out and conquer the business world. I still think that I can do something. I cannot do a single thing because I don't exist as a separate self who can operate on another separate self. There is movement, there is action, but I am not the cause of that action. What happens? I'm 30 years old, say, and I got this education, and I say, I'm going to conquer the business world. So I go out and I invest my money here, and I make a move over here, and I advertise over there. Let's say that in one example, I succeed overwhelmingly. I'm going to be twice as miserable as I was before, because now I have confirmed, in quote marks, my belief that I can achieve, that I can do. It happened by pure accident, by tens of thousands of accidental things coming together. But because I am an egotist and think I exist, I say I did it. I didn't do a single thing. But in my vanity and egotism, I think I did it. But now I'm worried, am I not? Now I'm going to start to lie and cheat and chisel in order to keep this illusion going and to get more money. And I'm going to have to live that way if I've started off this way, because I'm not going to give up this illusion that I can do something. On the other hand, let's say that I started off, and I started off one day later, let's say, and this time everything flopped. I lost my money, I lost my investment. My wife said, I told you so. And now I'm humiliated and ashamed. I'm in equal trouble, listen, I'm in equal trouble not because I failed in business, but because I still think that I did something, that I failed of myself. You don't even flop of yourself. What has been my problem in either case? The idea that I can do a thing. I know it's your next question or anybody's question. I will come to it. I can't do a thing. It all happens accidentally. So the question being, well, then how do we behave in this world? with perfect intelligence and perfect inner harmony. Because now seeing, you've worked. You're tired of paying the price. You're tired of being successful but anxious, or a failure and anxious, whatever it might be. Having died to your false sense of self, this is very practical. Now, I'm still 30 years old and I have some money, and I go out and I need to earn a living, right? How do I earn bread unless I make a living? But I do not go out in egotism. I go out and I'm an honest businessman, but I'm free of results, of any kind of results. I don't go up in vanity when I make $1 million, because if I'm in vanity, I'm sick, and I don't want to be sick, a sick human being. I want to be healthy. I want to be sane. And if I fail, it doesn't fall on my egotism, because I know that this is not me that did it anyway. Then I make what money I can, what comes to me, but it's not important anymore. And you say to the world, do anything you want. Eventually even this goes. But the beginning, when you just get on it, you say, do anything you want. Take all my money, do anything. I don't care. I'm out. I'm free. The question, your question, sir, vanishes completely. You won't ask it anymore.
I'm afraid I still have the question. I don't think there's a question of semantics. I say that if a person doesn't have any motive for money reward, doesn't have any motive for success or failure reward, doesn't have any motive for power or prestige, but simply wants to unfold as an acorn develops into an oak. Each individual has different capacities or abilities. I'm merely suggesting to proceed in living, in earning a livelihood along an avenue that would be more harmonious and in which one can work more efficiently. I'm expressing it clearly. This is all I was asking. Now, the world today, as you know, is a treacherous world as far as finding the right sort of medium to be connected with, and it's doubly difficult.
May I say again, and you can ask again if you like in another way, maybe I'm not understanding you thoroughly. If I don't have a problem with myself, I never have any problem with the outer world. Because there never was a problem out there.
It would be a matter of judgment, with an individual judgment as to whether that particular position or job would be a harmonious one or an inharmonious one.
Of course it would. Of course it would. If you train for a certain...
what to one might be a real great thing, might be a real terrible thing to another. So it's a matter of your
Mr. Howard,
own individual judgment.
Yes, I wasn't referring to ego injury, not by any means at all. There can't be any injury. There's nothing to be alarmed there. I'm merely speaking of blending in correctly in the right nature of work. That's all. Is a coal miner, should a person work as a coal miner if he has other capacities? Everyone does have some capability.
Yeah, look, we're not discounting normal, everyday intelligence. If I'm trained to be a carpenter, I'm not going out and look for work as a baker. I'm going to look for work where I'm trained in. But where's the problem? I don't see a problem.
The problem is not knowing what avenue to pursue. I've been in limbo for 7 years, and I've had in limbo for 7 years. I've had a major breakthrough in consciousness that has changed my life totally. But I still don't know which direction to move in. I've been in the real estate sales field, and it isn't my cup of tea at this point. I don't particularly feel aggressive to motivate people one or the other, and therefore there is a situation that is not. Well, it isn't.
Do you have personal problems?
No, I don't.
You have no personal problems?
Well, nothing can bother me. It's not a question of being a problem.
It's a matter of judgment, you mean, as to whether that is your cup, as to...
It's a question of what to do in the society.
Direction.
Do any of you understand what I said a few minutes ago, this total thing? I don't like to want to have to repeat the whole thing over. When I am right with myself, now look, now please. I said, when I am really right with myself, really right, I don't have any conflicts, I don't have any problems. Now, I want to earn a living. It is the simplest thing on earth. And not only that, I am not going to be dishonest. I am not going to be a man without a conscience. I'm going to make my living, if I make $3 a day, enough to give me bread and butter, and do it with a clear conscience, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to contribute to the madness of this world. Because I see that if I contribute to the madness out there, I am making myself equally mad. All right. Let us say that I am an awakened human being, or you are, but you don't have any money. You know what you do? You look in the newspaper and it says, man wanted to make money. You go down there and they say, no, we don't want to hire you. I don't have a problem. How can you reject me? All right, sir, you don't want to hire me. Fine. I go to somewhere else, and the man says, no, we don't want to hire you. I still don't have any problem. Oh, no, I lived that way too long. I'm sorry. I used to get angry all my life. That's over. Sorry. I walk out of there, and I don't have any phony politeness. I may be polite, but it's not phony. And I go to maybe 10 places. On the 10th one, the man says, we need a man to sweep the halls. We'll give you $3 a week. I'm exaggerating, but you understand what I'm getting at? Do you understand? I make $3 a week, and I buy bread as cheap as I can, and I'm a free human being.
It's a matter of working it out wherever you are, rather than thinking you have to move to something else, right?
If I am one thing, if I am not divided, how can I have any problem out there or in here? There is no problem. You can't touch me. Society can't touch you if you're free. We made it quite clear you're living in a mad world. We're not saying that. How can a sane man be touched by an insane world? Impossible. Impossible. Which do you want? Do you want to be sane, or do you want a pretense of sanity? It's as simple as that. Which do you want? It's up to you. You have nothing to prove. When you get angry, even if you don't know you're angry, what are you doing? You have an image. You have an image, and you're trying to promote this image. And society is destroying it at every second. It's destroying the image that you can do something, that you can be a success. Why don't you let society and the outer world destroy you completely and see what happens then instead of fighting? Why do you fight? You know why you fight. You fight because you're afraid to be nothing. Why don't you let yourself be beaten and see what happens? Why don't you let yourself be humiliated to the point where all the fight is knocked out of you in the right way? You'll get up. May I get dramatic just for a second? Just for a second. And the light will dawn. Then no one and nothing will ever knock you down again. How can it? You're not fighting. You're not resisting. You're not trying to get anything.
You're always in your right place, aren't you?
How can you be away from rightness if you were right?
Whether or not you like the job or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You remember what the remarks started this meeting today? Be very happy when the troubles pile on you. Now can you connect it a little better? If you fight, you're afraid. And don't lie. Don't tell lies. This is not the place, and your life is not the place to tell lies to yourself. Okay.
Someplace you said that we are not an accumulation of our thoughts or all the thoughts up to our current time in life. We are not. This is, of course, sometimes we think, well, everything I've thought is what I am or have become. Could you comment on that?
The self, the I, the who I am, is a collection of thoughts. These thoughts have been accumulated since the day I was born, since society started to work on me. My parents did. And then I started to work on myself because I thought society was right. I wanted to be a big success and all that. All these are a collection of thoughts, obviously. But few people ever see this. Therefore, you tell them this, it is absolutely meaningless, and they don't want anything to do with it. All right. We're here to see that this pseudo-self is a collection of ideas about me. But ideas about me are not me at all. For one thing, just for one thing, thoughts are simply one part of your whole psychic system. We found out many times that thoughts have their place. But it is on the level of thought that we go wrong. We go wrong because we identify with this cluster of thoughts and say, this is me. Don't you dare touch. Now we're in trouble. Now we fight. Now we argue because we're afraid, because we don't know the whole thing. I use a different word instead of illusion. The whole thing is a hoax. See through the hoax. You're free of it. Most people are walking around suffering from a hoax that they don't know is a hoax. We're seeing through it. It's hard work. Because who will I be if I'm not this wonderful leader of the community? This great successful businessman who started with $20 5 years ago, now he's a millionaire. Or I'm this mother, this wonderful mother, raised her children so nicely, and they're all successes. Who will I be? You have to give every second of your life to this. Every second. And you'll want to, too. You'll want to.
Well, you do more and more and more as you continue to remember.
Remember. Very good. You remember,
More and more
yeah.
and more.
You're remembering something that you had inside of you all these years. It really was there, but it was covered over, was it not? With all this accumulation. But you're beginning to see it again. This is why literature often speaks of coming home to yourself. The prodigal son, the boy who was kidnapped by gypsies and he found his way back home. This is what it's referring to.
I can remember that. I've always had that clarity of thought. When I was a child, particularly, you have this beautiful clarity, and pretty soon it's all covered over and clouded by the time you're 20, you know. But it was always there.
Right, right. That's what we're listening for. To the voice. There is nothing here that you have been hearing that each one of you does not already have inside of you at this very minute. Very minute. You have it. I have it. It's covered up. We fight taking off these overcoats.
This is the great temptation, I guess, of everybody, is to look outwardly for some authority rather than get rid of.
Very easy to look up to somebody and say, I'll let this man think for me. And that man will be using you, and you're equally using him. You're both responsible. Right? Oh, what a change comes in, among other things, in the people that we used to think were great people that we used to idolize and praise and protect against slander from other evil people. Now we see through them. And we all have our particular kind of false authorities. Some of you may have had false religious authorities. Others, false parental authorities. And you saw that your parents weren't the people that they passed themselves off as being in public, huh? It's all right. That's their problem. And they may have passed the problem on to us, certainly, in their way, because they knew not what they did. But we have seen through it, and we're not going to pass it on anymore. We probably did enough of it ourselves already. But this is where we get off.
Well, any kind of a religion or organization is getting you nowhere.
Get nowhere, did
Any
you?
kind of an organization or a religion, a group, an organized group is getting you nowhere.
Exactly.
Anything like that.
Sitting around deceiving each other is what it amounts to. Telling lies to each other. You have to walk away. Oh, the things you have to walk away from. Which means you're going to have to be all alone. And then, you know, the devil has an endless bag of tricks. You may go away from this organization, and then maybe you don't go to another one like a lot of people do. You may not go to another one, but now you'll fall into the trap of something up here that is all wrong. And again, this could be a number of things. Even bitterness against the organization you left is a trap, because bitterness is very pleasant. You meet someone who maybe fell away from a religion that he idolized, and his fall will be equal to his idolization, and he gets great pleasure out of criticizing the head of this religion or this false philosophy. He's just as much in a trap as he was before, because there is great me having seen through this hypocrite. He's still a hypocrite himself because he thinks he exists. There's division. There's division. If there's me and there's you, there's division and there's falseness, and we're both asleep. But we'll call it God or something like that. When I am willing to give up, and we do it little by little, this little false part of the cluster, one that falls off. Then another one over here, another one over here. But while you're taking off one here, another one collects over there. So you have to be careful. I've said before, and I will say again, you're not emotional enough in the right way. All these feelings that you have them, don't you? I've seen them here while we're sitting here, many different kinds. You get these emotions working for you, which you will as your mind becomes clarified. Boy, what a power. A power to lay in bed and snap this mechanical train of thoughts going through your mind. A motion to rebel properly.
What do you mean by that? Emotion to rebel properly?
Yeah. Which is simply saying that having caught a glimpse of this kingdom of heaven within you, say, I'm going all out in that direction, instead of the direction of getting angry at the former minister of the church, which is a false feeling of life. Have I explained that term to you, false feeling of life? We've touched on it a number of times. Let me go over it briefly. False feeling of life can be many things. It connects with emotions. But it means, again, an excitement that you prefer instead of looking at something in order to understand it. Getting angry is a false feeling of life. It's a substitute for understanding. You get real furious at somebody. Boy, you ever notice how good you feel when you get mad? You feel like somebody. You have to give this up. You have to die to it. This is part of the cluster of the false sense of self. There are many false feelings of life. Running a mental movie through your mind of being a great man or a great woman or something good that happened 10 years ago, this is a false feeling of life. You have to die completely to this. then your emotions will start to be channeled in the right way towards self-awakening. Boy, you go real fast then. You wait and see. You'll go real fast. And self-deception falls away faster. Emotions are an ally of self-deception. If I catch I'm saying something to somebody in conversation and I tell a lie, and because I've lied all my life, I lie and don't even know I lie. I'm so hardened in it. But if I catch myself in a lie quickly, I don't want to see it, and it becomes frightening to see that I am a liar because I'm an image of being honest. An emotion of some kind, could be any kind, will flare up and cut off my perception of the fact that I lied. Catch the thought and the emotion will stop too. The emotions are part of this charging runaway truck. Don't look. You have to judge this for yourself. Don't go out of here critical. Not that I care. This is your life. But you may care. Don't go out of here critical. And it's very bad to go out of here critical not knowing that you're critical. That's even worse. All right. Anyone?
I had mentioned, Ruth was talking about when we think of a problem, and you mentioned, I think in the book someplace, where we look for every avenue of escape or every avenue of action we can take over one problem, and we can't seem to arrive by going pro and con the correct way to get out of that problem, then your answer seems to be doing nothing about it.
Thought cannot rise above itself. You can never on earth think your way out of a psychological problem. You can think your way out of whether you've overbaked the bread. All you do is shut off the oven and then it may not overbake. That's thinking your way out on the practical level of thinking. However, you cannot think your way out of a psychological problem, such as jealousy or loneliness, because you're using the same tool to make the change, and it doesn't work. They're on the same level. Satan cannot cast out Satan. See? That's a quote, right? So there has to be something totally different from thought to make correction. And this is what we've been talking about all the time. Something that is different from acquired, conditioned, self-centered thought. Let me ask you, have you been trying futilely and frantically most of your life to solve your problems? Now you tell me whether you've achieved it or not. You haven't, have you? None of us have. See, honesty, don't lie. Don't tell lies. But this, see, look how frightening it is. All my life I've tried to solve my problems by using thought. Anger is one. Trying to be successful, having ambitions, chasing this or that, chasing sex. And no matter what I do, nothing changes in here. Do you see the terror you have to go through to get on the other side of it? You and I, we're in the terror. Let's face that first. We're in it. What's there to talk about? We're right in the center of it. If I come to the end of thought, who am I? It's horrible, which is why we have as few people here today as we do. Just one room full instead of an auditorium full. This is hard stuff, but we're going to do it. And I'll descend to a level. We're going to succeed, too. When I drop the idea that I need to be a success, the thought there is gone. I am free of that. Therefore, as the thought goes, the fear goes. Now I get something else that I'm trying to do, something to succeed at, something to prove an image of how intelligent I am. I die to that. Each one gives me courage and intelligence to drop the next one. Pretty soon, I'm at the 51% mark, and I go 90 miles an hour down the highway. Nothing will ever stop me again. Nothing.
Eventually, one will not be disturbed, is that right? Eventually. This changeover is disturbing.
Disturbance occurs when there is you and something which can disturb you. Okay so far? Where there is you and something to disturb you, the boss, the wife, whatever. This is thinking. This is on the level of thought. I am sitting here thinking how mean my boss was to me all day long. And maybe he is cruel. We're not saying that. He may be a tyrant, actually. But I am thinking about it. I am disturbed. Okay so far? I love this disturbance because without it, without the shaking, I won't know who I am. At least I am a hater. This is right. Now, this is serious. This is right. If I give up my hating, I'm not a hater. If I give up my jealousy, I'm not a jealousier. On and on. As I go, the problem goes. Then I'm simply working. I go out to work at 8 o'clock every morning. I come home at 5. And whether I've made $5 a day or $5,000 a day, I'm a free human being. No, what's my problem? I don't know. What's my problem? I don't know. I don't see it.
I can see that little bit of, if you have a certain standard of living, say you have to make $200 a week, you can't go out and make $5 a day.
What's the problem?
The problem is that you have to cut your standard of living.
Well, what's the problem there?
Well, if you have children, it's difficult to cut your standard of living.
Two things. One, if it wasn't an insane world, if billions and billions of dollars were not spent for killing, what's the national budget? If billions of dollars were not spent, not every country, the whole world, were not spent on killing, there would be plenty for everyone. All right, but that's not worked out. That's on another level. It's not going to happen. It's not going to change, not at all. So you do have your income cut. So you do what you can on this level, but I still don't see any problem. You know, look, here I am, a successful businessman making $1,000 a week, okay? $1,000 a week. I'm real proud of that. This becomes part of my image. And my children are well dressed. My wife belongs to all these stupid social clubs and all that. So I lose all my money. Do you know, let's see if you believe this. Do you know that the loss of my money, it doesn't bother me at all? What bothers me is my image of success receding before my very eyes and the humiliation that I cannot do because I said I did all this with $10 10 years ago and look what I have done. When you have died to yourself, money is not a problem in any way, whether you have a little or not, or a lot. Then, if it is necessary to cut down and reduce yourself from cake to bread, then you do that. But what's the problem? You keep your physical body alive? No, I don't.
Probably a fear of what these children or
But you're depriving someone
your
else of-
friends or standards will think. It's fear, I think.
What's your wife going to say? Because she's a sleeping human being too. And she says, you mean I can't go out and join these clubs anymore? Or buy the new dresses that I used to spend all this money for? And you're going to be afraid, oh, I'm going to lose this beautiful wife. You might be better off if you did.
Or that you should
But,
not.
but you don't make a decision. You understand? You never tell anyone to go away. And you don't tell anyone to come. Then look, this lady here, this lady's relationship is right with this lady's, and this gentleman with this gentleman is right. He has nothing to get from him, nothing whatever. When you see this, we're sitting here, free human beings, every one of us. We had no conflict. What's the problem? I see none. You've been saying things where I don't see any problem at all. But you're getting the point. We'll take a couple more minutes. All right, we'll end it with that then.
Do you have a project for next time?
Did you do the last one? How many, let me ask again, how many of you did the last one? Would you give us a brief report, anyone, please?
Well, I'm, get inclined to think about nice things going to happen before I'm going to sleep. But you can really get excited about that too, and you don't sleep. So I did it. And if you watch yourself thinking a thought go, you go to sleep. It's better than.
You went against your...
Well, I watched a thought and didn't enjoy the pleasure of it. When you watch it, you're not enjoying it.
No, because you are not there. It's simply an
Yeah.
understanding of it.
Yeah.
You are not in it. You're standing aside
So
and
when
watching.
you do that, it's, I don't know, you're not really conscious of it stopping. It has when you go to sleep.
You went against it. Good. Anyone else want to say anything? Now we'll give a project and that'll be... Yes.
My goodness, does it wake you up to the fact of how negative it is?
Pardon?
It woke me up to the fact of how very negative
Yes.
it was.
That is the
Wow.
purpose. Hooray for you. Yeah, that's the purpose. To see the mess we're in. Do we have a couple minutes? Project. This connects with this gentleman's question and many other things. Oh, you have ample opportunity the minute you go out this door. And it's very simple. See if you do it. From now on, you are not going to permit an event to become a problem. When you were right, there are 50 events in your life, but not a single problem. You are the problem, not the event. I am the problem. So what do? I go out and I meet this situation, this challenge, this rough thing, this unexpected happening, this whatever it was. And I say, this happened. What happened to me? There is the problem. I am not going to love to hate this event. I'm not even going to love it, because that is false, and the next time I don't get it, I'm going to be angry. I'm not going to be in love with excitement. Summary, do not let an event turn into a problem. And you can do it. You see. How do you do it? Not by thinking, but by not thinking mechanically toward it as you have, as I have, all my life. I meet it consciously with understanding. When I meet this event, regardless of what it is, consciously, it is impossible for a problem to arise from it, because I am not a problem. I am the only problem there is on earth to me. When I am right, my world is right, because I am my world itself. All right, that'll be enough.